My wife is a rich kid and has always been very resistant to going to work. But she suddenly started working hard and told me to study abroad. But what was supposed to be 2 months turned into a year, and even when her father-in-law got sick, she didn't come back. I went abroad to look for her, intending to surprise her, but I accidentally discovered the truth. My wife's name is Lin Han, and she's a second-generation rich girl. Her father owned a very large company, and she was the only child in the family, her mother having died when she was very young. But I didn't know this when I first met her. The two of us were college classmates, and student love doesn't take too much into account. As long as you like it, you're brave enough to go after it. So shortly after the start of my freshman year, I began my pursuit of Lin Han. Maybe it was because she was too well protected by her family when she was small, and at that time I felt that she was really very simple. I felt that she was really very innocent at that time. Some care that seemed very ordinary to me would touch her for a long time. How to say I have also been in love twice, plus the advantage of the same classmate. A year later, I finally let her become my girlfriend. In fact, my family situation is not bad, so even if I heard Lin Han say later that her family is richer, I did not have too much pressure. But the situation changed drastically the year we graduated. My father, who had always been the backbone of the family, suddenly fell ill, and the high medical bills soon overwhelmed the family. I thought to find a job quickly, so as to earn money to pay for my father's medical expenses, but things are not as easy as I thought. Looking at me with a sad face, Lin Han gave me an idea, that is, to go home with her to see her father. If her father could agree to us being together, then the problem would naturally be solved. We've been in love for more than 3 years now, and it's almost time to meet Lin Han's father, so I agreed after a bit of hesitation. It wasn't until Lin Han took me into the villa area where her family lived that I realized what she meant by a bit of money. A random set of villas here would cost tens of millions of dollars, so I instantly felt a bit inferior. But I had come here, so naturally I had to meet Lin Han's father. Her father seems to be in his 60s, and from what Lin Han told me earlier, he was busy with his career when he was young, so he got married late and had a child late. So since Lin Han was born, she has been very much favored by her father. I knew that Lin Han's father must have a lot to say to me, but I didn't expect him to be so direct. Do you truly like Lin Han? Uncle Lin asked with a serious expression as he stared into my eyes. Yes, uncle. I like Lin Han very much. We've been together for over 3 years. Young man, not all love leads to marriage in the end. Reality is also very cruel. I've understood your family situation. I'm giving you a chance to choose now. What choice? I directly raised the question in my mind. If you are willing to leave Lin Han, I will bear all of your father's medical expenses. It's also a way of thanking you for taking care of my daughter these past 3 years. As soon as Uncle Lin's words fell, Lin Han stood up at once. Dad? But before she could finish, Uncle Lin raised his hand, signaling her not to speak. Lin Han still listened to her father and pouted her lips as she reluctantly sat down. Uncle Lin looked at me without a word, waiting for my final answer. I already had an answer in my mind for this choice. Uncle Lin, I do need this medical fee, but I don't want it to be in exchange for my feelings for Lin Han. Doing so will only make me regret it for the rest of my life. So I'm sorry for not being able to comply. After hearing my reply, Uncle Lin nodded gently before continuing. Uncle isn't that desperate, but if you want to marry Lin Han, I have one condition that you must agree to. You also know that I only have one family member left like Lin Han now, so I don't want her to leave my side. If you guys want to get married, you have to join the family, and in the future, your child's surname has to be Lin. His tone was irrefutable. I stole a glance at Lin Han. She bit her lip and gently nodded. I realized that this condition was her father's last bottom line, and after hesitating for a long time, I finally nodded my head and agreed. On the one hand, it was because I did like Lin Han and I wanted to marry her as my wife. On the other hand, it was so that there would be hope for my father's medical expenses. After all, My father had raised me for so many years. A child's name was just a name, which was not as important as a life. After I went back to get my parents' consent, Lin Han and I soon got married. After marriage, my father-in-law was not stingy with me, and every month he would give me 20,000 yuan of pocket money, always telling me to be nice to Lin Han. My father-in-law also paid off my father's medical bills in one lump sum, and soon after, my father was successfully discharged from the hospital, and I was finally free of worries. I saved up the $20,000 every month and began to think about investing and managing money, and also partnered with a friend to open a small company. 3 years later, our company had taken shape with the help of my father-in-law's connections, and I refused his monthly allowance. The money in my hand is gradually increasing, and in a while I will be able to pay my father-in-law back for his medical bills. I am a man of backbone. I do not want to take advantage of my father-in-law for nothing. While I was busy with company affairs outside every day, Lin Han had been helping out inside my father-in-law's company. She went to work at the company every day as if she was fooling around, and when she came home from work, she told me all kinds of gossip about the company. Honey, I watched another day of TV dramas today. Personnel manager passed by from the side and did not dare to say anything, but instead, next to the toilet smoking colleague severely criticized, but also fined $200. I have also advised my wife to familiarize herself with the company's business and help my father-in-law to share some of the pressure. But my wife never took it to heart and was always as carefree as a child, or mindlessly groping for fish. Father-in-law has always wanted to make Lin Han into the company's future heir, but saw her in this situation cannot be helped, and finally simply arranged for a company's vice president to specialize in every day to keep an eye on Lin Han, by the way, to teach her company business. Strangely enough, from that time onwards, Lin Han seemed to have suddenly gotten the hang of it, and stopped calling me so often when she was at work. Slowly she started to work overtime, and I once asked her half-jokingly, "Honey, why have you changed lately? You don't even call me during the day." Lin Han smiled and told me, "I'm not young anymore, I can't keep playing around. You see, you're a boss now, so I have to be worthy of your status." I was a bit skeptical about this, but this is a good thing after all. I didn't ask anything more. In this way, a year's time has passed. Lin Han has become a company in the middle leadership. That day, she came home and suddenly told me that her father-in-law had sent her and the vice president to go abroad to set up a branch, and that it might take 2 or 3 months to come back. Although Lin Han said that when she came back, she could be promoted to the top level, but I still don't feel at ease. On one hand, it's because Lin Han's self-care ability is very weak, and on the other hand, I'm not too sure about that vice president, fearing that he'll take advantage of the opportunity to mess things up. Can't you not go? I'm really a bit uneasy about you. The company will be yours sooner or later. Is it necessary to fight so hard now? You also know that Dad is getting older now. I want to take this opportunity to learn more, or make it easier for Dad earlier. Lin Han said something that made it hard for me to refute, but I was still uneasy, so I went directly to my father-in-law. Dad, I also want to follow Lin Han and the others. I don't feel comfortable with her being abroad alone for so long. Sana, you shouldn't go. I have to introduce you to 2 big clients recently, and besides, your dad's body hasn't fully recovered yet, so he still needs you to take care of him. Hearing my father-in-law's words, I also dismissed the idea of accompanying my wife abroad. After all, I really don't feel at ease with my dad's health. Before my wife left, I took great pains to tell her over and over again. It's not like at home in a foreign country. Pay attention to safety and try not to go out at night. If you're not used to eating foreign food, let me know and I'll send you an express delivery. If you are homesick, come back early. We don't have to hold out until the end. Listening to my nagging, Lin Han was getting a little impatient. I know all that. You're even more fussy than my dad. I'm not a kid anymore. I'll take care of myself, so don't worry. Although she said so, how could I be so easily relieved? But after thinking about it, 2 or 3 months is not too short to say, not too long to say, and it will soon be over. But what I didn't expect was that 2 months later Lin Han suddenly told me that the original plan of 3 months had to be extended to 1 year because of a temporary situation. I was shocked when I heard this news. Isn't 1 year a bit too long? Why don't you go back to your home country and rest for a while before you go? But Lin Han's attitude was very firm. The more I learn here, the more I realize I don't understand. This time is a rare opportunity. I don't want to waste it. I don't want to disgrace my father. Our Lin Han has really grown up and knows how to think for his father. I said to Lin Han half-jokingly. This isn't because I learned from you. Recently Dad called me and always praised you to me, saying that you're capable, so naturally I can't lag behind. Hubby, you're awesome. I can't disgrace you either. I really felt that Lin Han had matured a lot at this moment, before she wouldn't even think too much for others. As the head of a large enterprise, my father-in-law had a lot of socializing and mental stress every day, and his health hadn't been too good lately. After a drinking party, because of drinking too much alcohol triggered a stomach disease, with complications directly into the ICU. These days I have been in the hospital, do not dare to leave, but also told the news to his wife who is far away from home. I hope she can go back to China to accompany my father-in-law. Don't wait until something happens and then come back, will be too late. However, Lin Han blamed me for speaking harshly, saying that my father-in-law would definitely be fine and that she was at the most important time right now, so there was no way she could leave. Honey, aren't you always over there with him? Dad is counting on you. I somewhat didn't understand Lin Han. My own father was in such a serious situation. People were already in ICU. Is there any job more important than a father? But I'm an outsider after all, so I can't say anything more. Since you can't come back, let me take care of this side. Take care of yourself. Find some time to give Dad a call. He misses you quite a bit. Lin Han promised and hung up, probably really busy. Under my careful care, my father-in-law's body finally got better, but he seemed to be a bit disappointed with his daughter's performance. Son, if I had known it was like this, I would have let you take over, she. Alas. I do not want their father and daughter conflict. Quickly persuaded, she may really be unable to separate. She is now much more understanding. Want to give you glory that. Father-in-law looked at me, and then just gently shook his head without saying anything else. Father-in-law finally discharged from the hospital. At this time from Lin Han out of the country has been half a year's time. Having not seen her for such a long time, I missed her very much. So I planned to sneak out of the country to see her and give her a surprise. I didn't notify Lin Han in advance, nor did I ask her for her address, because I already knew her activity area from her circle of friends. She basically went to a coffee shop every day, and I had already found the address of that coffee shop, so I planned to surprise her there. That day I bought flowers and her favorite doll and sat across from the coffee shop waiting for her to show up. Sure enough, soon Lin Han appeared. But the smile that had just blossomed on my face suddenly froze as I saw Lin Han walking arm in arm with a man. And Lin Han's stomach, surprisingly, was bulging, obviously already several months pregnant. I counted the time. This child is definitely not mine. And that man is exactly that vice president. Could it be? I didn't dare to think any further. I was going to rush over and question them, but just as I stood up, I thought of a better way. After I made a phone call, I bought the nearest airplane ticket to return to the country. Soon a year had come and gone, and Lin Han had finally returned to China. Pretending to be unaware of this, I took a bouquet of flowers to the airport and greeted her warmly. Looking at her flat belly, I smiled and then drove Lin Han back home. I opened the door and there was a table set up in the middle of the house, while on top of the table sat a large gift box with heart-shaped ribbons tied to it. Lin Han looked at me full of surprise. Honey, is this for me? I nodded and raised my hand to signal her to open it. Lin Han opened the box with anticipation, then she froze. She looked up at me in confusion. What do you mean by that? Are you playing a prank on me? I don't like this prank. Lin Han told me loudly. At the top of the box were 2 divorce agreements, and below that was $500,000 in cash. This $500,000 is my father's medical expenses from being hospitalized at the time. I'll return it to you. Thanks to Uncle Lin for helping me in the first place. Are you crazy? Why are you counting so clearly with me? I just traveled for a month and you want to divorce me. Lin Han's expression was a bit flustered. She seemed to have guessed something, but would never admit it. I didn't directly answer my wife's words and continued with a calm demeanor. Take a look at the divorce agreement. The terms are all fair. Everything we share equally, including your company shares. Can you answer my question? Why exactly are you divorcing me? Lin Han got angry and started yelling. I didn't say anything, but took out the 2 divorce agreements from the box, revealing the stack of photos underneath. After seeing the images on the photos, Lin Han's eyes directly widened as she raised her head and stared at me angrily. You stalked me. I smiled bitterly. I just missed you and wanted to go surprise you, but instead I received a surprise from you. I took the top one, and the bottom one I got someone to help me take. Is there anything else you want to say? Lin Han's attitude directly softened. Husband, I beg you, don't divorce me, okay? If you don't want to divorce me, why did you do this behind my back? Not returning to the country for a year, not even when your father was hospitalized, just to give birth to this child, right? What in the world are you doing this for? I want you to give me a reasonable explanation. Lin Han burst into tears, and then recounted what happened to me while crying. I didn't intend to lie to you at all. I did run to study in the beginning, but I just arrived there and didn't know my way around, so I was really stressed out. I let him accompany me to have a drink to relax. I didn't realize that the wine there was so strong. We both drank too much that day. But I didn't even expect to get pregnant all at once. Then why did you have him? I couldn't bear it. He was a life too, and I didn't want him to leave before he'd seen the world. And at that time, after knowing that I was pregnant, he got down on his knees and begged me to give birth to the baby, and said that he would pick up the baby when the time came and would never bother me again. You guys have a child. Wouldn't it be better for you to simply marry him? Why don't you still agree to divorce me? Because I love you. I didn't really want to do such a thing as cheating on you. It was only when he told me that he had been married for so many years without a child and begged me bitterly that I softened my heart. But you're the only one in my heart. It turned out that the vice president's wife had health problems and had never been able to have children, so she was overjoyed to learn that Lin Han was pregnant with his child. In order to get Lin Han to give birth to the child, she used all sorts of methods, and the bitter scenes were staged almost every day, which made Lin Han's heart soften. He also gave Lin Han the idea to extend her business trip to a year, so that she could perfectly fool me and my father-in-law who were far away from home. But they didn't expect that one of my whims revealed the truth of the matter. I don't love him at all, and I only lied to you because I was afraid you'd want to divorce me if you found out. I was also confused for a moment. Lin Han kept crying, but my heart was already cold. There's no way I can forgive someone who has cheated on me for so long. For old time's sake, I won't talk to Uncle Lin about this matter. But you might as well sign this divorce agreement. I felt pathetic, and I also felt that Lin Han was ridiculous. Did she think that such a big matter would be so simple to hide? Lin Han and I ended up getting divorced, and my father-in-law found out what happened from somewhere. That day when he brought Lin Han to my door to apologize, I was still very touched. For so many years, I've always respected my father-in-law very much. He's an uncompromising elder. He didn't persuade me to remarry Lin Han, but he gave Lin Han a hard time in front of me. He agreed to transfer half of Lin Han's shares to my name and offered to have me join his company. He wanted me to be his successor. But I still refused. I don't want to have any more interactions with them. I don't want to recall the memories that broke my heart. Now my company has already become a large scale. Even without the support of my father-in-law, can still operate well independently. After hearing my refusal, my father-in-law sighed, and I felt that he had aged a lot more.